What's up, everyone? We are diving back into the multiverse today for another epic. Which is what if Naruto was trained by Shinigami instead of Jiraiya and got powerful harem with Kushina? Part 4. If you enjoy this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more fanfics like this. Now, let's dive right into the fanfic. Next morning, Naruto yawned as he opened his eyes. He had been keeping guard all night, but he must have dozed off. He looked up to see it was morning, but another sight surprised him. He saw he was sleeping on his mother's lap where he had been since last night. Naruto grinned when he remembered last night. It was such an amazing thing to the blonde. That's right, as was amazing, you little mother are you. Now how long till you get it on? Kyuubi asked while Naruto silently groaned. He rubbed his eyelids while getting used to the sunlight. Not now, Kyuubi. I'd rather come to that bridge when I cross it, Naruto said in thought, and Kyuubi chuckled in his cage. He wasn't going to be bored any time soon, that was for sure. Hey, I'm more than willing to agree with you. The fact that you even kissed her is enough for now. Oh, she's waking up. See ya later, motherer, Kyuubi said as that name just stayed around in his head. Naruto rolled his eyes while he saw Kushina open her own. She looked down and smiled as their gazes hit each other. Have a good sleep, Ka-chan, Naruto asked, and Kushina ruffled his hair while leaning down to kiss his forehead. Naruto blushed, but smiled as she leaned up from his head. I slept well, Naruto-kun. It seems we got up before everyone else, so we have a bit of time to ourselves, Kushina said, and Naruto agreed. He leaned up from her lap. Kushina dusted her clothes as she got to her feet. The two had stayed in the tree all night, but neither complained. So are you going to move back with me or still stay in the guest room? Naruto asked, and Kushina looked at him before smiling slightly. What do you think? She asked playfully, and Naruto rubbed the back of his head. Leave it to his mother to mess with his head, which could only irk the blonde even more. I think yes, hopefully, Naruto responded, and Kushina placed a hand over her hip. She easily nodded, and Naruto sighed in relief. He had to remember to thank Hiashi when he had the chance, but that could wait for later as everyone was starting to wake up from their sleeping. The morning was relatively quiet minus Naruto and Kushina's conversation. The two were talking more with each other than anyone else, but no one seemed to mind. Sakura seemed off in her own, Sasuke's so cool, world. It was amazing that 2 years of seriousness had been somewhat repressed in one night by one Uchiha, but that wasn't Naruto's problem. He'd rather not worry about Sakura and her tendencies anymore. He wondered if he got some of that seriousness from the Shinigami. Alright everyone, now that we're done we will be heading for Konoha. Sasuke, I want you to be prepared for what you're going to face, Kakashi said, making sure that Sasuke was simply prepared for whatever happened, which made the Uchiha close his eyes. I know that already, Kakashi. You don't need to keep telling me. I'll own up to my actions, Sasuke said, taking a glance at Naruto, making the blonde nod. The Uchiha sighed, and immediately everyone ran off towards Konoha so that their mission could be considered a success. Orochimaru's base. Orochimaru sat in his chair, pissed off like there was no end. He was taking Sasuke's betrayal hard as Kabuto saw his master seethe like mad. Kabuto, make plans right now. I will never allow Sasuke to get away from me, that ungrateful bastard, Orochimaru said, and Kabuto bowed to his master. At once, Orochimaru-sama, who would you suggest that I send to go and retrieve Sasuke-san? Kabuto asked, and Orochimaru narrowed his eyes. He thought it over for a few minutes before chuckling. I've a better idea. Kabuto, how's that experiment coming? Orochimaru asked, and the medic stood to his feet and adjusted his glasses before giving a small smirk of his own. It's going well, Orochimaru-sama. I'll head to the land of iron immediately, Kabuto said, and Orochimaru nodded. The snake Sanin quickly got to his feet and handed Kabuto his sword, Kusanagi. Kabuto took the sword into his hands and smiled as he walked off, leaving Orochimaru in his room grinning like mad. When this goes well, I'll have the power to do anything. Kukuku Sasuke, you just made a big mistake, Orochimaru said as his laughter echoed throughout the room. Somewhere in the middle of nowhere, 9 figures came together in their astral forms as they stood on the fingertips of a giant statue-like structure. They all came together and began to talk with Deidara glaring hard at Itachi. Itachi, you bastard, Do I look like an idiot to you, him? Deidara asked while Kisame chuckled in response to that question of the blonde ex-Iwa ninja. Is that a trick question? Kisame asked while Deidara glared at the fish man, but didn't respond as he kept his gaze on the Uchiha, which made Itachi raise an eyebrow. What are you talking about, Deidara? Itachi asked, and the blonde narrowed his eyes. You said the Kyuubi Jinchuriki would be easy to spot. Well, he wasn't. I almost got killed. Now enough of your damn riddles and tell me who he is, him, Deidara told him, and Itachi narrowed his eyes. Had Naruto changed over the years so much to the point that they couldn't pick up on the hints that he gave them? It seems that Naruto's changed. I'll have to watch him closely now, Itachi thought to himself while he closed his eyes. He rubbed side before opening his eyes again. Well, since you don't know, then he is Naruto Uzumaki. He the blonde you met, Itachi said, and Deidara nodded. He knew he was right. How in the hell could he be wrong? He had it right the first time he saw the blonde. I knew I was right, him, Deidara said while Toby next to him chuckled at his misfortune before adding fuel to the already burning fire. That still didn't stop you from getting your butt kicked, senpai, Toby said, making Hidan and Kisame laugh at him while Deidara growled at his partner. He turned to the leader who was watching them all interact and sighed. Leader Sama, why do I have to be paired up with this guy? He's a freaking idiot, Deidara said, and Pain looked down at him with his menacing glare. You will have to get used to him, Deidara. Now stop your whining. We now have the Aikibi in our possession. We'll begin the extraction of the other tailed beasts. Itachi, Kisame, you are to go after the Kyuubi one more time. Should you fail, then the consequences will be most severe, Pain said, making Itachi and Kisame nod. Leader Sama, we still haven't located the Sanbi. Where do you suggest we look? Kakuzu asked, and the man with his purple, ring-shaped eyes turned his head to meet Kakuzu's gaze. For right now, ignore it. The Sanbi Jinchuriki is dead right now, and that's all that matters. Focus on the others for the moment. You're all dismissed, Pain said, and everyone faded out, leaving only him, his partner, Konan, and Toby. Nagato, you're underestimating the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. It'll backfire if you're not careful, Toby said in a new tone of voice while Pain closed his eyes. It doesn't concern you, Madara. We'll get it done just like always, Pain said while Konan sighed. He has a point, Nagato. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki must really have changed, or he wouldn't have given Deidara such a hard time like he said, Konan told him, and Nagato sighed. I suppose, but he will never be able to defeat a god. Let's go, Konan, Pain said, and the two faded out while Toby left also. Back in Konoha, Tsunade stared wide-eyed at who was in front of her. She seemed to stay silent for a few minutes while Sasuke sighed. He rolled his eyes while Tsunade stood to her feet. Is this supposed to be a joke? She asked while Naruto shook his head. No, he asked, unsure if he was supposed to answer that or not while Tsunade glared at the Uchiha. Sakura and Kakashi gulped while Kushina watched the interaction taking place. You expect me to believe that he just gave up willingly? What game are you playing, brat? Tsunade asked, and Naruto waved his hands up in defense. No game, Tsunade Bachan. I did fight with Sasuke for a bit, but I managed to convince him and he came back, Naruto said while Sasuke glared at Naruto. It seemed that the whole ordeal of him somehow bringing back his mother was a secret from even the Hokage. It really made Sasuke wonder what was going on that he didn't know about the blonde, but Sasuke decided to keep his mouth shut. Brat, in all my years as a shinobi I know something like that doesn't happen often. Now what aren't you telling me? Tsunade asked, and Naruto gulped. He saw Tsunade being completely irate. It wouldn't do him any good to tell her what really happened. Look, Ba-chan, it happened, so deal with it. What's up with all the non-trust with you? Naruto asked, making Sakura and Kakashi widen their eyes. Tsunade paused and stopped her accusation. She sighed and leaned back into her hair. She massaged her temples and looked at Sasuke. The Uchiha stepped forward and came to Naruto's not-needed aid. He's right. I just came back from something he told me. He said there might be something for me here, so I came back to find it. That's all, Sasuke said, sort of irritated in the way this talk was going. Tsunade sighed as she looked from Sasuke to Naruto. She saw that they were both drop dead serious and snapped her fingers. Immediately two Anbu appeared in the room. Very well, I believe you too. Since you gave up willingly, you'll be treated accordingly. Now if you hand over any information on Orochimaru, then you'll be even better. I'll have to discuss some things with the council and your punishment might be reduced, but for now you'll be held in our prison. Understood. Tsunade asked and Sasuke nodded. He began to walk away, but Sakura walked up to Tsunade. Naruto, Kakashi, Kushina and even Sasuke hoped that she would shut her mouth and not make this worse. Tsunade-sama, Sasuke-kun was under the influence of the curse mark. We can't hold that against him, Sakura said while Tsunade sighed. She rested her elbows on the table and her head in her hands. That will be taken into consideration, Sakura, but regardless of what happened must still receive punishment. It's the way things go, Tsunade said, and Sakura was about to retort before Sasuke sighed as he walked out the door with the Anbu as he left them all a small note. It seems that Naruto's the only one who has grown up, I guess, Sasuke said, making Sakura flinch as the Uchiha walked out the door. Kakashi and Naruto sighed while Kushina wondered what happened to Sasuke to make him like that. Well, anyway, this mission is a success for Kakashi, Sakura and Sai. Naruto, Kushina, what have you brought? Tsunade asked, and Kushina didn't have anything to give, but apparently Naruto did as he knelt down. He opened the secret compartment in his shoes and pulled out a small vial. I got this while looking inside his lab. It's filled with some green stuff, but I don't know what, Naruto said, handing the vial to Tsunade. The slug princess took the vial into her hands and looked it over with a critical eye before Naruto also took out a scroll. He unsealed the stuff inside and a pile of papers flew out. I also grabbed these from the same place. I hope this helps, Naruto said, and Tsunade looked at the stack of papers. She summoned Shizune, who grabbed the papers and quickly left with a hello to Naruto and the others. Nice work, Naruto, Kushina. You've completed the mission successfully. You may have the rest of the day off. Now get going. I have other things to do, Tsunade said, making Naruto and Kushina bow as they left the room. Sakura and Kakashi left also, and before long they caught up to the mother-son duo. Hey Naruto, what to do, anything? Sakura asked, but Naruto shook his head at her. Sorry Sakura, I've got things to do also. I'll see you later, Naruto told her, and he and Kushina walked off. Sakura sighed and turned around to see that Kakashi had left also, with her standing in the middle of the street. Guess I'll go see how Ino's doing then, Sakura said, walking off. Meanwhile, Naruto and Kushina were walking back to their house with the Uzumaki woman turning to her son. You could have gone with her, Kushina said before Naruto stood behind her and placed his hands on her shoulder. Yeah, I could have, but I'd rather spend the day with my woman who's more beautiful than anyone I know, Naruto said while Kushina blushed. She rubbed the back of her head and chuckled. Flatterer, she said as they arrived to their house. Kushina opened the door and quickly walked into the kitchen. Is there anything you'd like to eat? She asked, and Naruto was about to say something before Kushina glared at him playfully. Besides ramen, she said, and Naruto pouted. His mother was always like that, but the blonde found that exciting about her. In every aspect of the word. He sighed as he rubbed the back of his head. Well, you pick. I've got nothing specific, Naruto told her as he walked outside, but not before seeing her wrap an apron around her body, making him gulp as he disappeared into the fields. Naruto walked out a little further into the woods and looked around before he unfurled his wrist guards, exposing his seal. Naruto bit his thumb and traced it over his seal. You know, Kyuubi, I still don't like lying to everyone, Naruto said, and Kyuubi sighed at his container. Of course you don't, brat. Lying could get you killed. Wait, that's right, you can't die, can you? Kyuubi asked, and Naruto nodded. He quickly slammed his seal and watched it glow. You think I should tell someone? Naruto asked, and Kyuubi shrugged his big, furry shoulders. Do what you want, Kit. At this point it might not matter, but maybe you should tell someone or else you'll go insane from the silence, Kyuubi suggested, and Naruto agreed. Maybe you're right. Kuchio's no jutsu, Naruto yelled. His seal soon faded out and Naruto quickly turned around. He saw Shin holding a small soul before he devoured it. Naruto raised an eyebrow before the Shinigami noticed his presence. You have the habit of summoning me at the strangest of times, but I suppose I knew that when I allowed a contract with you. So what do you want? The Shinigami asked in his emotionless tone as he always had. Naruto folded his arms and closed his eyes. You'd think we'd have a better relationship since I've had you for the past few years, Naruto said while the Shinigami closed his eyes. You know how busy I am. I don't have time for idle chatter. So are you going to tell me what you want? 'Cause if it's not training or reviving anyone then I'm going to go, Shin said in Naruto's side, but there was nothing he could do about it so he simply decided to agree with Shin and get right to it. Alright, sorry. I know you're busy. I'd like to revive someone. Her name is Hanako Hyuga. She's from the Hyuga clan, Hinata's mother, and Hiashi-san's lover, Naruto said and the Shinigami nodded. He quickly took his beads and made them glow for a bit. Naruto covered his eyes for a little while as the light enveloped the area. Soon the light faded while Hanako appeared, but she didn't move which made Naruto raise an eyebrow. Why isn't Sei moving? Naruto asked and the Shinigami pointed to his sword. Stab her through the chest with your sword. It won't hurt her, rather her essence will return to her body. Since I channeled my spiritual energy into your sword it now has that capability. Keep that in mind, Shin said and Naruto nodded. He took out his sword and watched a small pure spiritual fire engulf it. He managed to thrust the sword through Hanako's chest and immediately the fire channeled from his sword to her body. Naruto watched the fire flare for a bit before settling down. Hanako opened her eyes while Naruto turned to the Shinigami. Thank you. Is it the same two people for one person deal? Naruto asked and the Shinigami narrowed his steely gaze at the blonde. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki gulped as he wondered if he said something wrong. Well, you've shown yourself efficient in keeping your interest parts. Fine, I'll test you. From now on it will be one person per revival. If you mess up then it's back to being interest as usual. Understood. The Shinigami asked and Naruto nodded. He breathed a sigh of relief as he watched his summon disappear. Excuse me, but who are you? Hanako asked and Naruto turned around. He got a better look at the woman and carefully looked her over. Hanako had a very light skin just like Hinata's. Her hair seemed to be a dark eggplant color. Slightly dark purple if he had to give it a color. She seemed to be wearing a moderately purple outside robe with a black sash wrapped around it, but that was enough observation. Oh sorry, I'm Naruto Uzumaki, the blonde said and Hanako widened her eyes. She remembered the blonde as she saw him when he was younger, much younger. Wow, I remember you, but how did you grow up so fast? She asked and Naruto rubbed the back of his head. Well you see, Naruto told Hanako everything that was going on as the two sat in the forest. Hanako widened her eyes at all the new information. She was surprised that Naruto had revived her or the fact that Hinata was a lot older. When all was said and done, Hanako was smiling. Thank you Naruto-san, I can tell you how happy I am for this. If there is anything I can do just let me know. I'm very grateful, Hanako said and Naruto smiled. Well I've got two things that I would like you to do, Naruto said holding out a piece of paper. Hanako watched as Naruto wrote on the paper for a few minutes. He smiled and handed the paper to Hanako. The Hyuga woman raised an eyebrow while she looked at Naruto for an explanation. 1. Can you pass that to Hiashi-san for me? Naruto asked and Hanako nodded. She quickly took the paper as Naruto got to his feet. He helped Hanako up also and patted her on the shoulder. Now as for the second thing. Please don't tell anyone that I'm the one who revived you. It'll make things go smoother for you and me, Naruto said as he rubbed the back of his head. Hanako nodded as Naruto told her she could go. Hanako walked away with a small smile on her face as Naruto chuckled. Eat your heart out Hiashi-san, Naruto thought before he saw Kushina come out to the field. Dinner's ready Naruto-kun. Come on in. After that we'll train with some sparring alright? She asked and Naruto nodded. They quickly walked inside as Naruto saw Hanako head into the village. He knew that the Hyuga compound would be having some fun tonight. With Hanako, Hanako walked through the village and back to the Hyuga compound. She reminisced throughout the entire place as she saw new shops and places. She could only be happy that she didn't get lost on her way back to the Hyuga compound. She wondered how tall Hinata and Hanabi had gotten. It would be great to see them. From what Naruto had told her, Hinata must really have grown. I can't wait to see all of you, Hanako said as she came up to the Hyuga compound. She felt a small air of familiarity and knocked on the door. A Hyuga came to the door and quickly opened. Hello, can I help you? Hanako-sama. The guard said, and Hanako smiled with a pure smile as the guard quickly led her inside. He looked her over from head to toe and even used his Byakugan to make sure this wasn't some imposter or a genjutsu. He widened his eyes when he saw she was real. Her chakra, her features, nothing was out of place. It was really Hanako. Hello, is Hiyashi-kun here? Hanako asked, and the guard quickly nodded as he escorted Hanako through the familiar compound towards Hiyashi. Speaking of Hiyashi, the Hyuga was having a small gathering with Hinata, Hanabi and Neji. The four Hyuga were sitting on their mats while Hiyashi spoke. And with that being said, I think it's time that you all started to move towards the next step in your training. Neji, you are by far the most talented Hyuga that I've ever known, and so you will lead the two in their training. Is that alright? Hiyashi asked, and Neji nodded. He bowed to the head Hyuga before getting up. I also heard that Naruto here a few days ago. Is that right, Hiyashi-sama? Neji asked, and Hiyashi nodded. Hinata blushed while Hanabi raised an eyebrow. That's right. He was here. Why do you want to know? Hiyashi asked, but Neji shook his head, not wanting to push the conversation anymore. Soon there was a knock at the door, making everyone turn to it. Come in, Hiyashi said, and the door opened only slightly. The compound guard showed his head and gulped, which made Hiyashi, Neji, Hinata and Hanabi looked at him strangely. Hiyashi-sama, there is someone to see you, the guard said, and Hiyashi raised an eyebrow. He wasn't expecting anyone, but nodded. Show them in, Hiyashi said, and the guard gulped again. It wasn't like a Hyuga to get nervous, well, except for Hinata, but anyway. The guard opened the door and allowed Hanako to walk inside. Hello, Hiyashi-kun, Hanako said, making Hiyashi widen his eyes. He slightly trembled at the voice while Neji and Hinata looked at the woman in complete shock. The only one confused was probably Hanabi of all them. Hanako? Hiyashi asked as he stood to his feet. Hanako smiled as she stood in front of the head Hyuga. She smiled as she quickly grabbed him into a hug. How long is it going to take you to hug me? She asked, and Hiyashi quickly wrapped his arms around his wife. Ka-san, Hinata said, and Hanako turned around. She looked at Hinata's older form and smiled as a tear ran down her cheek. Hinata, you've grown so much, Hanako said as Hinata felt some tears go down her cheek. She stood to her feet and hugged her mother also. Hanabi heard Hinata call her mother and quickly jumped to her feet. She gasped at the woman while Hanako turned to her second daughter. Hanabi, you've grown also into a pretty young woman, Hanako said, and Hanabi walked up to her and her body slowly trembled. Ka-san? Hanabi asked, and Hanako quickly nodded with her gentle smile. Everyone wrapped their arms around Hanako while Neji smiled. He chuckled, but seemed so confused about it. Hanako was standing right in front of him like it was nothing. It had to be some sort of miracle. How is that even possible? Neji asked in thought while Hanako turned to him also. She smiled before she walked up to him. Hey Neji, I can see that you've grown also. How have you been? Hanako asked, and Neji bowed. Hanako-sama, it's nice to see you again. How are you back? Neji asked, and Hanako smiled with a small shrug of her shoulders. Ka-san, this is amazing. You're really back. I've missed you, Hinata said while Hanako patted her head. She blushed, but Hanako simply continued it. I've missed you too, Hinata-chan. I can't wait to hear what's happened with all of you, Hanako said while Hiyashi released his hug from his wife and half-sister. You have to tell us how you're back though, Hanako. It's such a surprise, Hiyashi said while Hanako reached into her robe. She quickly pulled out a note and handed it to Hiyashi while she took Hinata, Neji and Hanabi towards a different room to talk, but not before winking at Hiyashi as she left. Hiyashi raised an eyebrow at the letter before sitting down as he opened it. He quickly scanned all of its contents before widening his eyes as he read down the letter. To Hyuga clan head, Hiyashi Hyuga. Hey Hiyashi-san, were you surprised? This is my thank you for the talk and advice you gave me. Treasure her as you've deserved it. I hope your clan livens up a little more because of this. I'd appreciate it with all of my heart if you didn't tell anyone I did this. I have my reasons for not telling anyone also. It's probably for the benefit of the village if no one knows I did it. Try to make some excuse, that's all I ask of you. Again, thanks for the advice and I hope you enjoyed your gift. If you ask me directly, then I'll tell you, but not many people know about this. You're one of the few people I think I could trust. Well, that's all. Naruto Uzumaki. Hiyashi finished reading the note and set it on the table. What secret could Naruto have that was so important that he wanted no one to know about it? Hiyashi knew about Kyuubi, but the way Naruto talked about it, it was like it was something even bigger than having Kyuubi. It really irked the Hyuga, but he sure was happy. He had Hanako back and Naruto was to thank for it. All this time he had been wrong in his assumptions about Naruto. He wasn't anything like he had some people say about him, and if Naruto trusted him enough with his secret, then he would keep it. Granted, he wanted to know for sure. I think I'll go see Naruto-san about this, but for now I think I'll inform the clan of Hanako. We should have a celebration about it, Hiyashi said to himself before a rare smile graced his face. Hanako showed her face around the door and smiled. Are you alright, Hiyashi-kun? Hanako asked, and Hiyashi slowly raised his hand. He grazed Hanako's cheek while she placed her hand over his. I really missed you, Hanako, Hiyashi said, and Hanako gave a gentle smile while she kissed his cheek. I missed you too, Hiyashi-kun. Now come on and let's see everyone else. You can show me around the compound, Hanako suggested, and Hiyashi nodded as they walked out. Hokage Mansion. Tsunade sighed as she looked at her village. Her mind kept replaying that talk she had with Naruto. It seemed so weird, all the things that were going down. So many things that she couldn't explain. Kushina's appearance, Naruto maturity, his hazy explanations with most of his dealings. They all made Tsunade anxious. Naruto was by no means a traitor. That blonde didn't have a bad bone throughout his entire body. She knew that for a fact, and maybe she was being just too protective. She hadn't been around a lot in his life and she knew that was her fault, so she couldn't really blame Naruto if he didn't want to tell her something. Everyone was entitled to their own secrets, she figured, even her. Great. Now I can't get any work done cause I'm racked with stupid guilt, Tsunade said with a sigh before she looked down. She had a small paper in front of her. It was for Sasuke's punishment. She and the council had been going for longest time on his punishment. They took into account all the information he presented to them, his giving himself up willingly and Sakura's rather desperate point of view about Orochimaru controlling Sasuke with the curse mark. Needless to say, Sasuke got away below the usual. Only a month in prison with the Sharingan deactivated in that time. Damn it, if Tsunade weren't tired from hearing those power-hungry civilians talk to her about Sasuke and his clan, then it would have been probably 5 to 6 months. Hell, maybe even a year. But what's done was done. Besides, she had a good way of knowing how Sasuke could contribute to Konoha. Oh yeah, that'll work out very well. Sakura, thank you for your idea, Tsunade said to herself as she chuckled evilly. Shizune happened to be near her and gulped as she saw her snickering Hokage and Master. This can't be good. She hasn't snickered like that since the time that someone told her to stop drinking sake. Even I didn't say that much. I say don't drink all the time, but what she did to that person was, gulp. Shizune quickly left the room, leaving Tsunade to her chuckling mess in her office. Namikaze compound. Naruto and Kushina huffed as the Y rested on the porch of their house. They were both a sweating mess from their training. They had quickly started training after their dinner, and needless to say, Naruto still needed training as Kushina made him a quick mess. Not to say he didn't get her either, but they were quick a few. He was fast enough for that. Nice work, Sochi. Just keep practicing and you'll be a great Kenjutsu user in no time, Kushina said, and Naruto turned to her. That's your level. So how am I as compared to others? Naruto asked, and Kushina wiped a bead of sweat from her brow. You're a lot better than them. As I told Tsunade, because of my training you are a Kenjutsu master. Just not better than me at it, she said, and Naruto narrowed his eyes at his mother. He saw her playfully chuckle while he turned back to look at the sky. Keep that up, Ka-chan, and I'll pass you up one day, Naruto said while the two Uzumaki sat up. I'm sure you will, but now I'm going to go wash up and change these clothes as you slashed at some unexpected areas, Kushina said, and Naruto looked her over. He slightly blushed when he saw the provocative attire of his mother. He gulped when he saw her dress torn across the chest, legs and thighs. Kushina noticed his stares while looking at the marks on his body. She noticed his chiseled chest and his muscles from the years of training he went through. Both caught themselves oogling the other before they tore their eyes from each other and quickly stood to their feet. Well, I'm gonna go wash up now, Kushina said, walking away, and Naruto nodded. He watched her leave and he plopped himself up on the couch. He rubbed his head free of the sweat that constantly fell from his face. Man, Ka-chan's rough, but that's what I like about her, Naruto said to himself before he heard a knock on the door. The blonde cursed before he got to his feet. He quickly opened in only to see Hiashi behind it. Hiashi-san, how are you? Naruto asked, and the Hyuga head held up the blonde's note. Naruto chuckled with a nod. I've been good, Naruto-san. I dare say that I felt much better than I have in a long time, Hiashi responded, and the blonde smiled as he let the Hyuga inside. Hiashi looked around the room for a bit before sitting on the couch. Naruto sat across from him and Hiashi gave him the note. Not that I'm not happy or overjoyed, Naruto-san, but why? Or rather, how did you do this? Hiashi asked, and Naruto nodded. He sighed and rubbed his blonde hair. I know you want to know, but trust me when I say this. If I tell you, then I need your word that you won't tell anyone about this. Right now the only one who knows about this is myself, my mother, Kyuubi, and possibly Gaara, Naruto told him, keeping the Kyuubi part to himself in his thoughts. Hiashi nodded as he listened to Naruto's word. Hiashi stood to his feet and bowed. He knew what he was risking, but for what Naruto did for him this was nothing. You have my word of silence, Naruto-san, Hiashi said, and Naruto nodded. He sighed again and quickly pointed to his hand. Hiashi gazed at it and Naruto unfurled the cloth around it and allowed it to drop to the floor. The Hyuga head looked at it and seal an intricate seal on it. Naruto-san, what that seal? Hiashi asked, and Naruto sighed. This is a summoning contract of me and the Shinigami, Naruto said, and Hiashi narrowed his eyes. Please explain. I don't understand, Hiashi said, and Naruto nodded that it was understandable. He started at the beginning of the entire thing and told Hiashi everything. Him almost dying in Final Valley, his meeting the Shinigami, and all the things that went with it. Needless to say, Hiashi was so surprised at the information. The only way he could tell that this wasn't a joke was because of the serious look in Naruto's eyes. I can see why you'd want to keep this a secret, Naruto-san, but can you handle this? Hiashi asked, and Naruto sighed as he placed his hand on the table. He stared at the seal for a while before nodding, even if it was hesitant. I believe so. That's how you go your wife back. I can make it that way, Naruto answered, and the Hyuga head stood to his feet. I see that you were smart about this. If you told everyone about this, it could benefit as well as hurt Konoha. I definitely understand where you're coming from. You would be treated so differently. I'd imagine that you might even be something of a treasure. The nations would fight over who actually got you, Hiashi said with a gleam in his eyes while Naruto shuddered. He didn't think that far into the future, but then he saw the small smile on Hiyashi's face. Was that a joke? Naruto asked, and Hiashi nodded. He wasn't one for jokes, but that was too good to pass up. Sorry, Naruto-san, but I do understand, and you have my silence. I can understand where this is a problem. It's nice that you can trust me, but what are you going to do? Hiashi asked, and Naruto sighed. I don't know. I think this can lead to peace that Ero Sennin told me about, but I don't know how. Right now I only have my most absolute rule. The people I kill are those who are on missions or the people who cross the line with something. Shinobi, I think it's like that. I don't know, Naruto said to Hiashi, and the Hyuga nodded. He quickly got up and walked for a window. I think you're right in your assumptions. Just make sure that you don't cross the line, Naruto-san, Hiashi said, and the blonde narrowed his eyes. He'd never had such a serious conversation before, but the blonde nodded and thanked the Hyuga. Hiashi headed for the door while Naruto opened it. Regardless, I'll keep this conversation to ourselves. You have the Hyuga clan supporting you, Naruto-san, and thank you for what you've done for me, Hiashi said as he walked out the door. Naruto smiled as he sat back down on the couch. It was then that he saw Kushina coming down the stairs in a bathrobe while she wiped her hair. Who were you talking to, Sochi? Kushina asked, and Naruto got to his feet. It was Hiashi Hyuga. He stopped by for a bit. So did you enjoy your shower? Naruto asked, and Kushina nodded. That's right, but I really want to take you somewhere tomorrow. It'll require more than a week, but I need to show it to you, Kushina told him, and Naruto raised an eyebrow. Oh, and where is that? Naruto asked with his curiosity rising. Kushina smiled as she rested on the couch with him. I'm taking you to your heritage. To the ruin of Uzugakure, Naruto-kun. I want you to know of our history. Plus there is something there that I want you to have. Call it your birthright, Kushina said with a smile, and Naruto nodded, feeling even more excited than before. Really, Ka-chan? That'll be nice to see, Naruto told her, and Kushina nodded. She easily leaned in and kissed Naruto on the lips, surprising the blonde. Kushina deepened the kiss for a bit before separating. Good night, Sochi, Kushina said, and Naruto watched her head back up the stairs. The blonde slumped in the couch and gulped. Lucky brat. Getting all the action, Kyuubi said to himself as Naruto got to his feet. He quickly walked off towards his room and saw Kushina combing her hair. She smiled at her son and watched him get in the bed also. So when are we going? Naruto asked, and Kushina smiled. Well, with our speed we can get there in about a day, maybe a day and a half at best. We'll discuss it with Tsunade tomorrow, Kushina told him, and Naruto was eager to see the place. Alright, Ka-chan, good night, Naruto said as he slipped in his night clothes as he and Kushina got in the bed. Good night, Sochi, Kushina said as the two Uzumaki dozed off, ready to escape the rest of the day. Next morning. So you want me to give you and Naruto 5 days off so you can go back to the ruins of Uzugakure? Tsunade asked, and Kushina easily nodded. Naruto smiled also while Tsunade sighed. Why are you going back there? Kushina, even you know what happened there, Tsunade warned, but Kushina waved it off. Yes, I do know, but there is something there. Something for Naruto. It's rightfully his, I know that much. Tsunade, you have to let me take him, Databane, Kushina said, raising her voice to a new level before Naruto calmed her down. Tsunade sighed again as she looked out the window. What do you think could be there? For the past 200 years there's been nothing. So why would that change now? Tsunade asked while Kushina smirked as she held up a finger in a matter-of-fact way. Because I know something that Mito Bachan left for Naruto. Well, not for Naruto specifically, but he's the one who can have it. You have to let me take him there, Kushina told her, and Tsunade sighed. She rubbed the back of her head. Alright, fine, Kushina. You can take him there. While I doubt you'll find anything there, I won't prevent you from going. Just take care of yourselves, Tsunade said, and Kushina nodded. She smiled as she left the room while Naruto sighed as he walked up to Tsunade. Ba-chan, why are you letting me go? Naruto asked, and Tsunade smiled. She stood to her feet and patted Naruto on the shoulder. Because I trust you, brat. I want you to know that right now. It's just that in this world making assumptions keeps you alive. It's a sad truth. Tsunade and Naruto looked at the ground. He looked at his left hand and nodded. I understand. Thank you, Ba-chan, Naruto told her, and he quickly ran out the door while Tsunade stayed behind the desk. Her smile quickly faded into a small frown while she looked at some papers. Be careful, Naruto, Tsunade said in thought as she wondered what was going to happen when Naruto and Kushina returned. With Sasuke, the Uchiha sighed as he stayed in a prison cell. He looked at the wall near his bed and closed his eyes. He was thinking about so many things. He wasn't sure if this was the best decision, not to mention he couldn't be sure that Naruto would bring his mother back. It's not like she was some lost woman out in the world. She was murdered, slaughtered by his brother. Sasuke seethed at the thought of Itachi, but also realized a lot. Guess there's no helping this now. If that Dobi did trick me, then I'll kill him, that all. Still, where did he learn to use his sword? He uses it almost as good as I do. HMPH, well, whatever. At least I don't have to hear Sakura's mouth for a while, Sasuke said as he thought more about his brother. He was brought back to that fateful night. It was weird because as he saw Itachi leaving one last time, he saw tears on his face. Why was he crying that night? Was he regretting it? No way. I hate him. I hate Itachi. I will kill him, Sasuke said, thinking aloud, but then he heard a replay. So the Uchiha brat thinks that his brother killed the clan for no reason, huh? A prisoner asked, and Sasuke narrowed his eyes. He'd rather not respond, so the man talked anyway. What if it wasn't his choice, huh, brat? You still know nothing. Such a weird brat, the man said, and the Uchiha growled. What the hell do you know? Sasuke asked, getting more irritated after a while. Haha, I know a lot more than you ever could, brat, the man said, and Sasuke walked to the bars. He looked to see who was taking, but from the angle of his prison cell there wasn't much he could see, so that was sort of a problem. What are you saying? You know something, don't you? Sasuke asked, and he immediately heard a laugh from someone. He growled before the person came into view. He wasn't a prisoner, rather he was a guard. Must have been one very bored guard to be talking to a prisoner. Sasuke was at least allowed books to read so long as none of them were chakra, jutsu, or ninja art based. Well, let's just say I know what really happened. I know a lot more than you can even speculate, the man told him, and Sasuke narrowed his eyes at him. He was obviously an Anbu from his mask, but it still irked the Uchiha that an Anbu would be interested in him. Who are you? The Uchiha asked, and the man smirked. You can call me Bor. Tsunade-sama put me in charge of you. Simple insurance, I guess. Sheesh, why an Anbu captain needs to watch an Uchiha like you makes me wonder, Bor said while Sasuke narrowed his eyes. Never mind that. Tell me what you meant before. What is it that I don't know about my family? Sasuke asked, and Bor smiled behind his mask. This was too easy. Give me a good reason as to why I should tell a spoiled brat like you. You might write me off when you hear it, Bor told him, and Sasuke gritted his teeth. He balled his fists, and if his Sharingan could be active then it would be flaring like mad. I need to know. My whole life has been a lie. I wanted nothing but power. I wanted to kill Itachi, it was my revenge for what he did to my clan. I spent every waking day and night dreaming of the day that I would kill him, but things are stopping me from doing that. If there is something that I don't know that involves my clan, then I need to know, Sasuke said, looking at the ground. Bor narrowed his eyes behind his mask, so Sasuke wasn't sure what he was thinking. You really are a damn brat, you know that? Bor told him, and Sasuke narrowed his eyes. He sighed as he leaned on the wall while Bor rolled his eyes. I wasn't the Anbu captain when it happened. I was under Itachi's platoon. I'd say that you share in a majority of your clan's arrogance, Bor told him, and Sasuke narrowed his eyes. He looked at the ground before responding. Are you gonna tell me or just insult me, cause I don't have time for this, Sasuke said impatiently, and Bor nodded. Alright then, I won't tell you, Bor said, walking off, and Sasuke widened his eyes. He quickly cursed and got to his feet. Hey, stop. I need to know. Tell me, Sasuke demanded, and the Anbu turned around. What's the magic word? He asked, and Sasuke gritted his teeth. It was only his second day, yet he felt like he wanted to die. Please, Sasuke said, struggling not to explode from the word he was using. Hearing the Uchiha being polite, Bor turned around and continued. Since you said please, I'll continue. I'll put it like this, fast and simple. The Uchiha were planning to take over Konoha, Bor said, quick and to the point. Sasuke widened his eyes before he grabbed the bars of his jail. Impossible. My father told me about loyalty to my village. He's the reason that I was even a Konoha shinobi. Why would he? You were too young to understand what he meant. He did teach you about loyalty, I'm sure, but it wasn't meant to be to your village. It was to be to your clan. Fortunately for us, Konoha learned about your plot from Itachi. At the time the Sandaime was our Hokage. He didn't want to, but he knew to keep the village safe he would have to destroy the Uchiha clan, but do you know who told him they would do it? Bor asked, and the pieces we coming together for Sasuke. Itachi, Sasuke said, and Bor nodded. That's right. He put his loyalty to the village before his entire clan, all except you. You were the one person he couldn't kill. He loved you more than the village itself, Bor said while Sasuke's eyes glared hard. That's a lie. He's told me to kill him, to hate him, despise him. I can't just suddenly believe that Itachi would act on the best interests of the village, Sasuke said as confusion, anger, and guilt were coming to him. Bor noticed all the signs and sighed. Look, I was in Itachi's platoon like I said. We all tried to persuade him not to go through with it. He was the only Uchiha who didn't flaunt his power along with your mother. If I know Itachi like I think I know him, then he lives with that regret every day of his life until you come along and kill him to end his suffering. You'd be seen as the hero of Konoha who avenged the Uchiha clan. How could you break his wishes like that? Bor asked, and tears ran down Sasuke's face. Had he been wrong the whole time? What was he supposed to do? This was all new information to him as a person. For the longest time he prided himself on loyalty and strength, but his clan wanted to usurp the village of its power. It made it seem like his entire clan was in the wrong. How do I know you're telling the truth? Sasuke asked, and Bor shrugged his shoulders. He leaned against the wall and looked up at the ceiling. Simple, really. Because I don't really care if you believe me or not. I only told you this because I still respect Itachi even if he is on the wrong side. That's the least I can do for him, not as a shinobi of Konoha, but as a precious member of his platoon. I'll let that digest in you while I go, Bor said, walking off, leaving Sasuke to his thoughts. Sasuke balled his fists and cursed. He didn't know what was right anymore. Was he supposed to stop being the Avenger and turn back into the caring brother that he was when Itachi was still family? Should he forgive Itachi? Would he, his mother and his brother be a family again? Why doesn't this make sense? Itachi, why are you so complicated? Sasuke wondered as he struggled to come to terms with everything. He could only be happy that he had a complete month to figure this whole thing out as he sat in his cell thinking over things. With Naruto and Kushina, the two Uzumaki were currently running through the trees of the forest as Kushina guided Naruto towards Uzugakure. The two were going at a breakneck pace, but they were quickly making some good time. We'll have to cut through wave country, but I think we'll make it there no problem, Kushina told him, and Naruto agreed with her as he tried his best to keep up with her. So what do you want to show me there, Ka-chan? Naruto asked her, and Kushina smiled as she turned around. She slightly winked before shaking her head. Say Cret, she said while Naruto pouted. He glared at his mother before he passed her. You don't want me to make you tell me, Naruto said playfully while Kushina chuckled. She quickly jumped in front of Naruto's face, almost bringing their lips together before she pushed him away. You'll have to catch me first, Sochi, Kushina told him as she dashed off. Naruto gave an ear-splitting grin as he chased after his mother, looking to catch her and answer his question about what awaited him at Uzugakure. Kushina smiled at the open ocean and closed her eyes. It had been a long time since she could see it all. She had never been so close to her home in such a long time. Naruto watched his mother embrace the small feeling while he sat on the ground. They had been running for about a day and he was more than happy to have a break, but that didn't mean that he wouldn't be happy to go and see the place where his mother had grown up. Are you ready, Sochi? Kushina asked, and Naruto got to his feet. He did a few quick stretches to get the blood flowing back through his body as he turned to the redhead. Yeah, Ka-chan, I'm ready. So are we going to take a boat? Naruto asked, and Kushina nodded as they walked towards the small ocean port. It wasn't a long walk away, just about a few minutes before they came to it. Sochi, I want you to be prepared though. Uzugakure is a place surrounded by heavy whirlpools. There is a reason as to why only the Uzumaki could make it there, Kushina told him while Naruto turned to her. If that's the case, then why did Ba-chan say that nothing has been there for such a long time? Naruto asked, and Kushina sighed. Her smile faded slightly and Naruto noticed it. He gulped as he wondered if he said something wrong while Kushina responded. It's complicated, Sochi. The nations feared our talent for Fuinjutsu and so we were attacked. I was young at the time. Hehe. Tsunade might have made an exaggeration with that 200-year thing. We're not that old, but then again history gets distorted that way. It's probably 40 to 45 years at best, but if I'm right then there is still something for you, Kushina said, and Naruto decided to agree with her as they entered the port. Kushina spotted a ship and went to go negotiate with the captain there. Meanwhile, Naruto let his mind wander back to the time that he had Hiashi had that talk. He was more than happy that Hiashi would keep his secret. He also seemed to be a lot more sociable than when Naruto had known him. He also thought about Hanako's sacrifice. He really needed one. He still had 5 days to get one since the new deal with the Shinigami, which he was slightly relieved for. Let's see. I have Ka-chan, Gaara, and Hanako-san. That's 3 people. I have to work on Makoto sometime before Sasuke gets out, but the appearance of another Uchiha will definitely cause some attention to come into Konoha. People will be asking around and Sasuke will be asked for information. He gave me his word that he wouldn't tell them I did it, but I wonder what I should do. Knowing Ba-chan, she'll try to connect this to me somehow, Naruto thought with a gulp. He wasn't a criminal. He sure as hell wasn't a traitor, but with all he'd been doing he wondered if maybe he should tell Tsunade before something really happened. Maybe he was being paranoid, but he figured with a contract like this that paranoia was a little normal. It still surprises me that you're such a deep thinker now. When you were younger it was all brawn and no brains with you. You've really grown, Kit, Kyuubi said, making his presence known. Naruto snapped from his thoughts before smiling. I'm still like that at times, but more not than often. So Furball, how are you enjoying your domain? Naruto asked, and Kyuubi sighed as his tails curled around his body. It's very hot, too many demonic screams and souls tortured. Just perfect, Kit, Kyuubi said in a blissful sigh while Naruto rolled his eyes at his Biju. He didn't know when this whole friendship started between him and Kyuubi. For the longest time it was all about a give and take relationship between the two, but they both seemed to be doing better. Kyuubi was still the arrogant, boastful and prideful fox that he'd always been, but he toned it down when talking to Naruto. Well, that's great, but I'm in kind of a predicament here. Naruto yelled, making Kyuubi cackle in his demonic domain. Your fears of being branded a traitor and losing everyone you care about. So you're worried about reviving that Uchiha, but you revived the wife of a Hyuga clan head. Something wrong with this picture? Kyuubi asked, and Naruto widened his eyes. Kyuubi was right. He'd already put himself out there. This wasn't going to be good at all. No, it wouldn't, but he'd just have to deal with. He could only hope that this wouldn't be a problem for later in his life. Back in Konoha, Tsunade stared in awe of the person in front of her. Hiashi, Hinata, Neji and Hanabi smiled while the Godime Hokage tried to break her shock. First Kushina and now Hanako appears. Was this some kind of joke? There were so many things wrong with this picture. 1. Hiashi was smiling. That was weird enough before Tsunade stood to her feet. How? Why? When? I don't understand how this is happening, Tsunade said, and Hanako smiled. Last time I saw you, you were leaving the village and now you're the Hokage. I see some strange things have happened while I was gone, Hanako said with a snicker while Tsunade turned to Hiashi. Please explain before I get a headache, she said, and the Hyuga turned to Hanako. The two looked at each other and sighed. They both knew of their word to Naruto that they would say anything. It was for the best of the village. Not to mention that it was the best for Naruto. Hiashi would always be faithful to Konoha and the Hokage, but he also kept his word no matter what. Well, Hokage-sama, I don't understand it myself. I think Hanako can tell you better, Hiashi said while the other three Hyuga turned to Hanako. The female Hyuga mentally gulped. She really wished she was dead again, but that did matter anymore. Well, Tsunade, I left the village. It was a bit after you did, but I had a good reason for it. I had lost my memories when I left. I had originally left on a mission for the Sandaime. I don't remember much, but I only now that I got my memory back about a day ago. It seems I was gone for a long time, Hanako said, and Tsunade widened her eyes. No way. Sarutobi-sensei said that they had buried you. Even I learned about your death. Now tell me the truth, Tsunade said, and the Anbu in the room all got tense. Hanako sighed as she stepped forward. I am telling you the truth. Simply because there is no reason for me to lie to you, and I don't know what body you have in the ground, but it isn't mine. If anything, it's probably a clone that's long since dispelled. Why not check and see if I'm right, Hanako suggested, and Tsunade narrowed her eyes. She waved her hand and an Anbu quickly left the room to go. Sigh, this is such a damn pain. If I'm wrong then this'll be one hell of an apology, but what mission were you on? Tsunade asked, and Hanako quickly responded. Unknown to anyone, Hanako was one hell of a good liar when she wanted to be. She never lied on much of any occasion as she didn't condone it, but when she did it her lies were too good. If I recall then it was a mission that sent me into a town. I forget what it was called, but it was quite far away, but when I lost my memory something just kept drawing me back to Konoha, and so I asked around a lot for the directions which people gave me, and I was happy to come back. I found that I had missed my family. My 2 daughters, my nephew and my husband, Hanako said, making them all smile while the Anbu came back. There is nothing there, Tsunade-sama. The grave is completely empty, the Anbu told her, and Tsunade gave a loud sigh. Soon Shizune came through the room and the blonde Hokage turned to her. Shizune, I'm going home. I need to lay down. Just cancel all appointments. I'll do them all later, Tsunade said, getting from her desk while Shizune blocked the door. No, Tsunade-sama, you need to get your work done, then you may rest, but it's important that you do it now. I'll make you some tea to calm you down, but this must get done. You're already behind on the work. Plus you need to finalize this document, Shizune said, and Tsunade looked at it. It was for her idea that she had wanted to start off with since Sakura gave it to her. Alright, fine. Just make me the damn tea and I'll get back to work. You can go now, Hiashi, Hanako. I'll deal with it later, Tsunade said, and the Hyuga family walked out of the door. Tsunade rubbed her temples before looking out the window. Kushina and Hanako. This is weird. Who's next? Makoto. Yeah, right. If she comes back, then I'll give up sake for the rest of my life, Tsunade said to herself before Shizune placed a small cup of tea in front of her. Tsunade took the drink and allowed it to settle her nerves as she went back to work. With Sasuke. Sasuke looked at the ceiling. It had been 2 days since he'd been in prison. He found it all uneventful, to say the least. Granted, he had plenty of time to think about what that Anbu said to him. Sasuke couldn't get it out of his head. There has got to be a reason for this. Was my whole hatred a lie? What am I supposed to do? Sasuke wondered. He looked at the steel bars to the outside and got up. He quickly looked over the entire village. He saw some of the people walking the streets before he dropped to the ground. Great, so even if the Dobi is lying about reviving my mother, how am I supposed to go after Itachi now? I really need something to do, Sasuke said to himself before his cell opened. He raised an eyebrow and quickly walked out. He saw that the prisoners also had their cells open also. An Anbu came to them and looked at them all. You've all got some free time. We'll be watching you closely, so don't do anything stupid. Meals will be served soon. Now get going, the Anbu said, and Sasuke traversed the prison walls of the place. He saw other prisoners conversing before one of them looked at the brunette strangely. Well, it seems that the last of the Uchiha must be a weak chump to be in here, the man said while Sasuke closed his eyes. He sat down at a table on the lower level and decided not to respond, which made the man more irate. Hey, I'm talking to you, brat, the man said while Sasuke placed an elbow on the table. Everyone watched the two converse before the man slammed his hand on the table in front of Sasuke. Do you know who I am? I'm a B rank nin from Snow Country. I always hated you, Uchiha. Do you hear me? He yelled, and Sasuke turned a tired eye to him. Shut up. If you have the time to waste trying to make me angry, then don't. I don't care who the hell you are. Just stay out of my way and I won't kill you, Sasuke said while the inmates cheered for a fight. Well, you don't have your precious Sharingan, so I'll be able to take your head right here and now, the man said as he brought his fist back. Sasuke opened his eyes as he saw the punch coming. The Uchiha quickly ducked under it, surprising the man before Sasuke kicked him into the air. The man groaned as Sasuke jumped into the air behind him. You think you can beat me? Don't bet your life on it, Sasuke said as he kicked the man down to the ground. He then twirled his body and brought his foot into the man's back, making the ground under them crumble beneath both their weight. You have a long way to go. Shishi Renden, Lion's Barrage combo, Sasuke said as he got up from his seat. He quickly got to his feet and went back to his table while the Anbu came on the scene. They had all seen what happened and didn't really care, just so long as no one tried to break out or do anything else. Not bad, Uchiha. You fight well, someone said, and Sasuke rolled his eyes before he got back to his feet. Whatever. I'm going back to my cell. It was a lot more quiet there than this damn place, Sasuke said as he quickly got out of the public place. He heard people moan or groan from his leaving inside. He didn't have time for this. Besides, there was still a lot more to think about for him. Back with Tsunade. In her room was an Anbu who was kneeling in front of the Godime Hokage. Tsunade gave the Anbu the list and she quickly took it in her hands. So, do you think this is a good idea? Tsunade asked, and the purple-haired Anbu looked at it. She raised an eyebrow before turning back to her Hokage. Well, Hokage-sama, it sounds interesting, but what's the purpose of this? I don't mind working with other people, but will those four go for it? I mean, the Uchiha is in prison at the moment. It's not like anything could happen, she said, and Tsunade stood to her feet. You're right. You are going to be a new team and you'll have to get used to each other's habits and natures. Yes, Sasuke is a criminal, but he told us everything about Orochimaru and any ideas he might have planned. Once Naruto and Kushina come back, I'll tell them also. Kakashi might be reluctant, but he might do it if the cause is great enough. Yugao, just be careful. You might be an Anbu captain, but even you know of Kushina's kenjutsu, and the fact that she passed it to her son makes it more great. Sasuke told us that he studied kenjutsu from Orochimaru. That makes him a powerful asset for us to have, and you know that, Yugao, Tsunade said while the purple-haired Anbu nodded. Still, I don't see why we're doing this. I mean, teams are created with some purpose in mind. Is there one, Tsunade-sama? Yugao asked, and Tsunade nodded. She smiled and pointed her finger toward the cat-masked Anbu. I've decided to create Konoha's first kenjutsu group. The 5 swordsmen of Konoha, Tsunade said while Yugao's sweat dropped. She looked at her Hokage like she was insane. You want to copy Kiri? Isn't that kind of beneath you, Hokage-sama? Yugao asked, and Tsunade smiled darkly at the Anbu. What was that? Are you talking back to your commanding officer? She asked, and Yugao shook her head with a gulp. Tsunade's smile brightened as the Anbu relaxed in relief. Now then, this was originally an idea that I hadn't thought of. Sakura actually did it and I just finalized it, but there is a reason for this. Recently there has been some news from the land of iron where most samurai dwell. You 5 being the most adept in using kenjutsu will be perfect for this. I need this team to look into stuff like that, Tsunade said while Yugao put a finger to her chin. But isn't that what the Anbu are for? Yugao asked, and Tsunade rolled her eyes. Know what? Just wait till the others come. It'll be easier than telling you all of this, Tsunade said, and Yugao nodded, but not before asking one more question. Okay, I understand, but what about Sasuke? You gave him a month in prison. So how is this going to work? Yugao asked, and it was then that Tsunade smiled. She grinned like mad before staying silent. Couldn't tell ya. You may resume your duties now, Tsunade said, and before Yugao could ask again she was met with a glare that simply told her to leave, which she did. Sigh, I guess I avoided that. Now then, time to start getting this done, Tsunade said as she started taking Naruto, Sasuke, Kushina, and Kakashi's picture. She stamped them to some new licenses in front of her. There we go. I can't wait for this, Tsunade said to herself while the Anbu wondered what she was planning. Back with Naruto and Kushina. This is as far as I can take you, miss. You'll have to continue on by yourself, the captain said, and Kushina and Naruto nodded. The two jumped off the boat and landed on the water. Naruto saw the violent swirls of the whirlpools and narrowed his eyes. Just beyond these pools was his home, but damn, they looked strong. They were about ready to rip anything to shreds that entered them. Ready, Naruto-kun? Kushina asked, and the blonde turned to his mother. Exactly what are we doing here, Ka-chan? In case you forgot, she still have those whirlpools in the way, Naruto told her, and Kushina nodded as she walked a bit further. Don't tell me you're scared, Naruto-kun, she said, and the blonde scoffed. Hell yeah I am, Naruto screamed in his thoughts as Kushina stood down on one knee. She muttered some words to herself and quickly drew her sword. Uzu no Fuin. Dai Uzumaki. Kai Uzumaki seal. Maelstrom, release, Kushina yelled as she slashed her sword forward. A wave blasted into the whirlpools and effortlessly destroyed the pools of violent water, creating a path for the two. Come on, it won't hold for long, Kushina said to him, and Naruto could agree with that as the two ran through the waters. They didn't have any time to lose as they quickly made it to land, only to see the water continue to swirl violently, making Naruto sigh in relief. What was that, Ka-chan? Naruto asked, and Kushina smiled. That was the only way to enter Uzugakure. Now stay close to me. It's easy to get lost here, the redhead warned him, and Naruto followed close to her. The two entered into a very dense forest that really covered their sight. Naruto followed close to Kushina as she guided him towards the village. Both took the time to mourn the corpses that they saw before them. Are you okay, Ka-chan? Naruto asked, and Kushina closed her eyes. She sighed with a small nod before she widened her eyes to see Naruto hug her, pushing her close to his body. Don't worry, Ka-chan, I'll protect you. I know you must feel sad, but we're not gone. There is still you and me, Naruto told her, making Kushina nod. You're right, Sochi. Wait, what do you mean why there is still you and me? Are you trying to tell me something? She asked, and the blonde widened his eyes. He gulped while Kyuubi laughed his head off. Kushina blushed as Naruto rubbed the back of his head. What are you talking about? I didn't mean it like that. What I meant to say was that Naruto tried to say, which made Kushina giggle at her son. She knew that he knew what she was talking about. She'd already thrown some caution to the wind, but she never thought about doing that with her son. She didn't even know if she could go through with it. Ka-chan, maybe we should get moving now, Naruto told her, and the redhead nodded. She stumbled through the forest for a bit longer before the two came up to a gate. Naruto stared at it, and so did Kushina. It has a seal over it. Well, Naruto-kun, go and open it. Time to test the fuinjutsu that I taught you, Kushina told him, and Naruto sighed. You just don't want to do it, do you? He asked, and she rubbed the back of her head with a sheepish chuckle while Naruto shook his head at his mother as he took out a piece of paper. He quickly took out a pen and started to write over the paper. He made a small seal and took hold of the paper. All right, Ka-chan, stand back, Naruto told her, and Kushina backed up a bit. Naruto slammed the seal over the gate and backed up. The two Uzumaki stepped a bit more back as they heard gears turning in the gates. It unlocked, and due to the age of the doors, they fell to the ground, kicking up some dust, which made Naruto and Kushina cough for a bit before the two opened their eyes. Naruto, welcome home, Kushina said. The two walked inside. Naruto looked inside and widened his eyes. The place was slightly destroyed and some buildings were burned, but that wasn't what Naruto was looking at. He was looking at some of the nice scenery that surrounded his village. The buildings that weren't destroyed were quite nice. They were the standard traditional houses, and Naruto could picture the Uzumaki conversing amongst each other. It's nice here, Ka-chan. Do you hear them? Naruto asked, and Kushina raised an eyebrow. Hear what, Sochi? Kushina asked, and the blonde smiled as he gave a blissful sigh. I can hear the kids. They're playing in the streets. I might sound weird, but I feel tranquility here. It doesn't matter that the buildings were destroyed. It's just amazing, Naruto said, and Kushina gently smiled. Only her son could see the joy in it. One thing that Naruto got from Shin was that he was also more in tune with the spiritual side of things. Maybe that was it. Well, I'm glad I could show it to you, Sochi, Kushina said as Naruto walked up to her. He moved his face close to hers, making Kushina blush. He quickly kissed her, and Kushina widened her eyes before gently touching Naruto's hands. The blonde wrapped his arms around his mother, deepening it while Kyuubi smiled. Well, they're not getting it on, but whatever. This is still hot either way, Kyuubi cackled to himself before Naruto backed away while Kushina touched her lips with her finger. What was that for? She asked, and Naruto smiled at her. He quickly grabbed her hand and settled for feeling the smoothness of it. Just a thank you for doing this. Love you, Ka-chan, Naruto told her, and Kushina rubbed the back of her head with a slight nod. Love you too, Naruto-kun. Now then, let me take you to the place. It isn't far, Kushina told him, and Naruto nodded. They quickly walked through the village, and while the buildings showed signs of the battle that took place along with the elimination of the Uzumaki, the plant life that was overtaking the place did a good job of hiding it away from the two. It took about 10 minutes, but Kushina brought Naruto towards the main building. It wasn't big, rather it was medium-sized. It was built to look like the Hokage mansion, except it had a large Uzugakure symbol over it. There were a few windows that allowed for easy seeing access towards the village. You coming, Sochi? Kushina asked, and Naruto nodded. He quickly followed her inside, and there were a series of stairs leading through the back of the building. So Ka-chan, care to tell me a little bit about Mito-bachan? The blonde asked, and Kushina smiled with a slight nod. Ba-chan really was an amazing woman. She was a lot free-willed and traditional than most Uzumaki. She was also one of our best fuinjutsu experts. I learned all that I knew from her. Like me, her chakra was special also. You didn't know it, but Mito-bachan's chakra was said to be directly linked to the spiritual world, granting her an even better chakra connection than anyone else. In a way, You take after her, Kushina said, and Naruto smiled with a small nod. Soon the two exited the back of the Uzugakure mansion and walked a bit further to see a small vault. Kushina smiled and turned to Naruto. Behind this vault lies the secrets of our clan head. Let me tell you this, Naruto-kun, throughout our entire history, only 5 people have gone in here. I'm one of those 5 and now you're the 6th. Figure out this seal and open it, Naruto-kun. Our clan might be scattered, but we're all still Uzumaki to the end. Once you open this vault, it will send a chakra flare. Anyone who is an Uzumaki will feel it, so do it now, Kushina said, and Naruto nodded. He quickly walked up to the vault and raised an eyebrow. Why did they leave this place if they attacked the village? I wonder if they didn't see this, but how could they not? Naruto wondered before he took out a piece of paper. He saw Kushina looking around cautiously before he did the same. Kyuubi? The blonde asked, and the fox quickly nodded in an affirmative to Naruto's unasked question. Yeah, you're surrounded. I don't know who. Either they're really lucky bandits who survived those whirlpools or just people who have inhabited this place for a while. Get ready for a fight, kid, Kyuubi said as Naruto narrowed his eyes. Soon, just like Kyuubi said, a man came from the bushes and grinned like mad at the two Uzumaki. Well, I didn't think anyone else would be able to survive those whirlpools. Plus a cute one finally arrived, the man said, eyeing Kushina up and down while Naruto's chakra flared. Oh, and who are you? I didn't think that anyone other than us were here, Kushina said, reaching for her sword while the man smirked. Yeah, well, life works out that way, doesn't it? He asked as he snapped his fingers. Immediately 5 or 6 scruffy-looking guys came out with sword, knives and all the bandit essentials. You really think that's a good idea? Naruto asked while the man turned a tired glare to him. Shut your mouth, blondie. Besides, I'm talking to the sexy-looking one here. Although I am curious as to what you have in that vault there. All our attempts at it were destroyed. Now you seem to know what you're doing, so why don't you open that vault before I try a persuasive method, the man said, pointing his sword at Kushina. The others laughed at the blonde's predicament while Kushina closed her eyes. Naruto's hair shadowed his before he felt her chakra flare. Naruto grabbed his sword, making the man frown. Don't do anything stupid, brat, or else she dies, the man said, and Naruto smirked when he saw Kushina lift up a hand sign. You might want to get away from her right now, Naruto told him, and the man laughed. Yeah, or what? He asked, and Naruto shrugged his shoulders. Or you'll die, Naruto said in his thoughts before everyone heard an explosion which knocked the bandit leader into a tree. He widened his eyes when he saw Kushina smiling on top of said tree. You're 100 years too early to threaten me and my son. I don't know how you got here, but I know how you're leaving, Kushina said as she grabbed her sword. Immediately the bandits yelled and charged at the two while Naruto took out his sword also. He might have been lucky as this was the chance he needed to get his offer out of the way. Damn you, bitch, the man yelled as he swung his sword with no skill at all. Kushina rolled her eyes as she parried the blow easily. The bandit widened his eyes while Naruto came up behind him. Say hello to the Shinigami for me. Oh wait, I'll actually get to see him take your soul, Naruto as he slashed across the man's back. His sword hummed while the blonde stared at the man's back. Kuchio's no jutsu, Naruto said, and immediately everyone stared at the white apparition behind the blonde. Here's my payment, Shin, Naruto said as his sword glowed in a spiritual white color. All the bandits watched as saw their leader's soul ripped from his body. The humanoid shape stood in front of everyone while Shin opened his mouth. Payment received, the Shinigami said as he opened his mouth. His beads rattled as the soul of the bandit was sucked into his mouth. Never to be seen again. What are you doing to the boss? Someone yelled as they all charged him. Naruto turned around and quickly took out a scroll. He used the ink pen and wrote fast before biting his thumb. That won't matter where you're going, Dadbao, Naruto said as he slammed the ground with the scroll. Immediately the ground quaked from the pressure while everyone lost their balance only to see Kushina waving. Goodbye, Databane, she said as all the bandits fell down a large hole into the island. Naruto made it more than steep enough to make sure that they would be meeting the water when they go all the way down. Meanwhile, Naruto turned back to the Shinigami to see him devouring the bandit's soul. Naruto's glare turned cold as he closed his eyes. Contract finished. Excellent work, Naruto, the Shinigami said as he quickly left as soon as he came. Naruto smiled while he turned to Kushina. Ka-chan, are you alright? The blonde asked and the redhead nodded, snapping from her stupor. Sorry Naruto-kun. I still don't like to see you doing that. Just be careful, she said and Naruto nodded. He could see some of the sadness in his mother's eyes. Naruto wrapped his arms around her with a small smile on his face, making her rest into his arms. I know Ka-chan. I promise not to worry you. Now come on and smile. A frown doesn't suit you, the blonde told her and Kushina livened up a little. So what does suit me? She asked and Naruto looked her over. He studied her features before smiling again like he always had. Anything except a frown. Now let me open that door, the blonde said and he quickly wrote down a small intricate seal. He finalized it and stamped it over the door. He gave it a quick tug of the handle and watched the seal on his paper glow before hidden seals across the door. Naruto and Kushina closed their eyes to the blinding light before the door opened. Kushina stayed out while Naruto waited for her. The redhead chuckled and shook her head. Only those who open the door can go in Sochi. You must do it yourself. Read through everything you can find, Kushina said and Naruto walked inside. He quickly walked inside and looked at the darkness. Man, it's dark, Naruto said to himself before he stumbled on a scroll. He quickly picked it up and read it, but then when he did pick it up a small light flicked on, bringing the entire room to brighten as he saw so many books. He quickly picked one up, but then a letter fell out the book. Naruto looked at it and opened it. Uzumaki clansman. If you are reading this, then you are one of the unique individuals who was selected by a Fuinjutsu master and come into this place. I am the first clan head of the Uzumaki, Fuda Uzumaki. Know that you are one of the privileged to learn everything there is to know in these books. When you leave, you will be filled with the knowledge of the Uzumaki and you will know what made this clan so powerful. My life has ended, but I only hope that the friendship that the Uzumaki hand with the Senju is still strong. Go. Use all our Fuinjutsu knowledge to bring pride and honor back to the Uzumaki clan. Uzumaki head, Fuda. Naruto dropped the note and narrowed his eyes. He quickly picked up a book and read it over. It was all understood to Naruto. He looked at everything in the book. Thanks to his mother, the blonde had become a fast reader. He quickly summoned 3 to 5 clones and they all read through the books. Meanwhile, Kushina stayed outside and sat on a tree. It was getting dark while she wondered how long Naruto had been in there. It was at least 2 or 3 hours and she wondered if he was planning to read every single last book in there. He always was eccentric, Kushina said and she looked up at the forming stars in the sky. She yawned before closing her eyes to get some sleep. 3 hours later, Naruto dispelled his clones and let all the information soak into his head. He never knew about all these capabilities with Fuinjutsu. There was even one about time-space Fuinjutsu. It seemed to work the way Kushina tried to explain Minato's Hiraishin, but Naruto never knew. He could make his own stuff. When all this information stopped, Naruto gripped his head. Okay, slight headache, Naruto said to himself before he got to his feet. All of a sudden the seal on Naruto's hand started to burn. The blonde gritted his teeth and he fell to his knees. He cursed his luck as his sword glowed brightly. Its shine lit up the room in an even more intense glow of energy while the seal of the Shinigami burned on his hand. Kyuubi, what's going on? My body, it hurts. It's burning inside, Naruto said and Kyuubi narrowed his eyes. He had never seen something like this before. I don't know. Just try and bear it, kid, Kyuubi said while Naruto rolled on the floor in pain. His seal burned in a white light while small white streaks appeared over the blonde's clothes. Naruto's seal extended from his hand down to his arm, making it even more intricate than before. Soon the burning stopped and Naruto huffed. He felt a sharp pain in his left hand and wiped the sweat from his brow. Naruto gripped his left arm and looked at it. 2 black lines extended from his seal and disappeared into his shoulder. Naruto took off his shirt and checked out his entire arm. He widened his eyes when he saw that the 2 black lines that came into 2 dark circles. What is this? Naruto wondered before his vision grew blurry. He felt himself fading out in consciousness as he opened the vault. He quickly walked out, waking Kushina up. She gasped and got to her feet while Naruto dropped to the floor. Sochi, are you alright? She asked and Naruto huffed. He then fell into his mother's arms while Kushina looked at his seal. Soon the Shinigami appeared behind her while he glared at the blonde. So, it's begun. A lot sooner than I expected, the Shinigami said as Kushina turned around. She narrowed her eyes at the spirit before turning back to her son. What's happening to him? Kushina asked, and the Shinigami placed his hands on Naruto's seal. He's adjusting to the power of my seal. I created this seal so he could summon me, but it also takes some of my power and channels it into his body. Did he go inside that vault? The Shinigami asked, and Kushina nodded. Yeah, but what does that have to do with anything? I've gone inside and nothing like this happened to me, Kushina told the death god, making Shin sigh. I see, that's the problem. You Uzumaki always were tricky. It seems something in your vault activated my seal's progression, and now Naruto can't handle the sudden intake of spiritual energy. He won't die from our conditions, but he will be in a lot of pain if I don't do something, the Shinigami said, and Kushina turned to him. So what has to be done? I've got to do something also. He's my son, Kushina said while Naruto's body burned. His breathing picked up while his agony was made present. Shin stared at Naruto's body and turned to Kushina. I'd need another vessel for the spiritual energy. Sort of a small control to hold back Naruto's power intake. There has to be someone else, Shin said, and Kushina gulped. What's the method? She asked, and the Shinigami looked at Naruto. Simply one of your human lip contacts. It's a simple transfer of energy, the Shinigami said, and immediately hearing that, Kushina slammed her lips to Naruto, wasting no time. A small glow outlined Naruto's body and quickly outlined Kushina's. She quickly deepened the kiss between her and her son as she felt a small intruding force into her body. She winced at some pain as she looked at her right hand. On it another seal was being made as she separated from the blonde. Kushina sighed while Naruto's breathing slowed. You do realize what you've put on yourself, right? Shin asked, and Kushina smiled. She then proceeded to rub the back of her head. No, I don't, but he seems to be doing better, Kushina said, and Shin closed his eyes with a sigh. Oh well, this'll be interesting. It seems you connected with him, Shin said, and Kushina raised an eyebrow. What do you mean I connected with him? Me and my son have always had a strong bond, she said while the Shinigami shook his head. You will understand his heart and he will understand yours. Misery, joy, anger, sadness, hurt, comfort, love. All these things and more you will have in tune with the other. You're quite lucky as you're not only connected in emotion, but health. Just like he can't die, you won't die either. Tell me, human, what is your name? The Shinigami asked, and Kushina stood to her feet. Did you know my name when you revived me? She asked, and the Shinigami narrowed his eyes. My work is too important to remember such trivial things, the Shinigami told her, and Kushina's eyebrow twitched. There was an insult in there, somewhere. She then turned back to Naruto and sighed as she heard his heart beating steadily. She sighed in relief before turning back to the death god. My name is Kushina Uzumaki, the redhead said, and the Shinigami settled for a nod. Very well, I'll remember you. You should take him to get some rest, the god said as Kushina turned to Naruto. She smiled slightly before turning around only to realize that she was alone. The moon high in the sky and the stars twinkled. She turned back to Naruto and quickly flung his arm over her neck. Well, that was eventful, wasn't it, Sochi? Kushina asked him, but she didn't get a response. Not like she was expecting one, but still. 3 hours later, Naruto groaned as he opened his eyes. He looked to the right and quickly saw a small candle flicking in a room. He noticed he was on something soft and realized it was his mother's lap. The blonde looked up and saw Kushina with her eyes closed. How you feeling, Kit? Kyuubi asked, and Naruto stumbled, rubbed his head. I feel like I just took a Chidori to the chest. Again, Naruto said mentally while Kushina groaned. She opened her eyes to see Naruto looking at her. Well, it's about time you woke up, she said, and Naruto smiled. Kushina leaned down to kiss his forehead while Naruto rubbed his arm. What happened to my arm? It doesn't hurt anymore, but it feels weird. There's an energy that wasn't there before. I feel weird. I'm happy. Really happy right now, Naruto said, smiling as he rubbed the back of his head. Kushina chuckled as Naruto leaned up. He sighed as he looked over the house. This is my house, Naruto-kun. It's not so bad, so I was able to place you here. Are you alright? Kushina asked and Naruto nodded. He sighed with a small smile as he got to his feet. Soon all the memories of his clones came back. The note, the seal book, and everything else. Naruto had never been so happy to know about his heritage before. It was then that Naruto's arm glowed again, but unlike before there was no pain. What appeared on his arm was a small swirl symbol. Kushina looked at it and smiled. Congratulations Naruto-kun, you are, by Uzumaki standards, a Fuinjutsu shinobi of Uzugakure, Kushina told him and Naruto nodded with a small smile. He sighed as he leaned back onto the floor. He looked around the room before smiling. Thank you Ka-chan. This feels great, Naruto said before he yawned. Kushina covered her mouth and did the same. Looks like we're both tired, Kushina observed and Naruto couldn't help but agree with her assumption. So are we going back tomorrow? Naruto asked, but then Kushina shook her head. Nah, let's stay here for a little while. We won't have to be back for a while. We'll stay here for 2 or 3 days and just enjoy the place. We have it all to ourselves, Kushina said and Naruto snickered. I suppose, you're right. It'll give me some time to practice my Fuinjutsu. Kushina's mood slightly deflated at those words as she scratched her cheek embarrassingly. Naruto could feel Kushina's slight depression. It was like he knew how she was feeling. He wondered why before widened his eyes. As well as spend some time with the greatest woman in the world that I know of, Naruto said and Kushina agreed as her mood raised again. I see. Well let's get some sleep then, Kushina said as she closed her eyes. Naruto leaned up next to the wall where she was sleeping and gently moved her head. Kushina opened her eye to see what he was doing and saw that he rested her head on his shoulder while his went over hers. The two Uzumaki slept that way the entire night as they both had only one thought. Definitely better than a simple mother and son thing, they both thought in unison as they went to sleep as they enjoyed being the last Uzumaki in their village. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad after all. Back in Konoha. So what do you think? Tsunade asked while Kakashi looked at the piece of paper. He scanned it all before he glared over it with his visible eye towards the Godime Hokage. Tsunade effortlessly smiled at him while the one-eyed Jonin rubbed the back of his head. You were bored when you wanted this weren't you? He asked while Tsunade's eyebrow twitched. She cracked her knuckles at him making Kakashi sweat drop. The Jonin gulped and slightly backed away. I'm sorry. I think I misunderstood those words right. She asked dangerously and Kakashi nodded fast not wanting to be on the receiving end of one of those punches. Ma, all things aside I guess I can see why. I guess Team 7 is being disbanded. He asked and Tsunade rubbed her head. For the time being, Sakura needs more practice and the introduction of Sasuke has resurfaced some problems that I worked to get rid of. Besides, she needs to get that crazy notion out of her head. Keeping Sasuke away from Sakura will do her some good. While I understand that, is there going to be something that should be done? Kakashi asked and Tsunade nodded. You're going to the land of iron. As of now Kushina's the leader only because she's got more experience than you all combined. Now then as for Sasuke, Kakashi stopped Tsunade and allowed it all to digest for a little bit. I know Kushina and her exploits. She was a great Anbu, one Minato trusted. However, do you really think she'll be able to after all this time? Kakashi asked while Tsunade rolled her eyes. Kakashi, she trained Naruto in Kenjutsu for 2 years and, along with Sakura, he kinda kicked your butt. I think she'll do just fine, Tsunade said while Kakashi nodded not wanting to relive it all over again. So he let it go. Now then, back to Sasuke. What do you think I should do? I want this team started as soon as possible. But he still has to pay for his crimes even with all the information he gave us, Kushina said and Kakashi lifted a finger to his chin. Well then if you're having a problem, then why not go with this idea? He asked and he told Tsunade the entire thing. She nodded and then nodded again. She grinned like mad while she rubbed her hands evilly. Sasuke Uchiha, prepare for the worst time of your life, Tsunade said while Kakashi turned around. I guess I'll start practicing again. Kami knows how long it has been since I picked up a sword. I'll see you later Tsunade-sama, Kakashi said as he shunshined out of the room. Tsunade nodded and watched him leave. I wonder if this is really a good idea. Even more so I do still wonder about Hanako. I checked the files and everything about her states that she's dead. Even that old man would have some record of her on the missions also. Why do I feel that Naruto is centered around both Kushina and Hanako? Brat, when I see you I really want to know. Not as Hokage, but as a person who really cares about you, Tsunade said as she looked out the window. She stared at the moon and sighed. I wonder what I should call this group. The Five Swordsmen of Konoha is boring. Any good names I can come up with I wonder, Tsunade said as she got up from her desk and left for the night. Somewhere in the middle of nowhere. Well, that's the Gobi. We already have the Nanabi, so what's next? Hidan asked while Pain narrowed his eyes. Get rid of the body for the Nanabi. It is a nuisance to have around, he said, making Kakuzu nod at him. He quickly took the body of a green-haired girl and walked away. Alright, we will now begin the process for the Gobi soon. We have acquired the Aikibi. Next will soon be the Sanbi. Make sure not to fail in your attempts to retrieve it, Pain said while Toby smiled. You don't have to worry about that, sir. Deidara Senpai and Toby will get him cause Toby is a good boy who follows his senpai's orders, Toby said while Deidara sighed. Toby, you'd better shut up right now or I'll kill you him. Also, did you guys hear the news? I heard Orochimaru last Sasuke Uchiha. Apparently Konoha recaptured him, Deidara said while Itachi closed his eyes. He sighed before opening them back. It doesn't matter. We should continue with our objective, Itachi said, making everyone nod while Konan saw Pain's arm twitch. She narrowed her eyes before Pain dismissed everyone and watched them all leave. Nagato, is your arm still bothering you? Konan asked while the man with rippled eyes sighed. It's nothing, Konan. Just a small disturbance since this afternoon. Don't worry about it, Pain said, and Konan settled for nodding as she left while Pain did the same. Orochimaru's base. In one of Orochimaru's many bases, a red-headed girl with glasses on her face was keeping count of all the prisoners in their cells before she fell to her knees and gripped her legs. Damn it, what is this pain all of a sudden? It's been like this since the afternoon, she said before she picked up her clipboard and started walking. Karen, are you alright? Someone asked, and the girl with nodded fast as she adjusted her glasses. I'm fine, just leave me alone now. Geez, this is so boring. Orochimaru should trust me more, Karen said, walking off while she wrote some things in her notepad for Orochimaru as she tried to also find something for her leg that was hurting like hell. Somewhere in the land of fire. 4 or 5 people were inside a small temple as they conversed with each other. They had simply one goal in mind, to destroy Konoha. However, to do that they needed to do something drastic. They all sighed before a slightly red-haired woman gripped her neck in pain. She seethed for a bit before the burning calmed down. Fuka-ri, you alright? You need to stop pushing your body. Who knows how long your neck has been hurting, someone said, and Fuka rolled her eyes. I'm fine. I don't need you worrying about me, so just calm down. I can take care of myself, she said while another person rolled their eyes. Sure you can. That's why you need to seduce anyone you see, the man said while Fuka growled. Shut your mouth, Fuin. I'll be fine. Now then, when are we getting started? Fuka asked as their leader came forward. Soon. We'll be paying a visit to some very nice tombs soon enough, the woman said, and Fuka nodded with a sure smile over her face at the idea, even if her neck was killing her at the moment. 2 days later, Uzugakure. So it's like this, then it goes like this. And now I just seal it. Naruto yelled as he slammed a Fuden Jutsu into his scroll. He successfully did it. Ka-chan, I got it done. Naruto yelled, and Kushina came into the room. It was weird. It turns out that despite the years and some of the damage, a lot of clothes were still fine. She was wearing a small navy blue, sleeveless muscle shirt with some black shorts exposing her thighs. Naruto wore a sleeveless, red muscle shirt with black shorts. The two Uzumaki were going over their techniques together and both compared notes. That's good, Sochi. I knew you'd get it naturally. You're an Uzumaki after all, Kushina said, and Naruto nodded. He also had plenty of other scrolls around the room filled with stuff, but then his brain hatched an idea. Hey Ka-chan, you know how 2-chan had his own time-space ninjutsu? Naruto asked, and Kushina nodded. The blonde smirked and held up a finger like he was making a point. Then let's make our own. Just you and me together. It will be our little project. Don't you think? Naruto asked while Kushina sighed. Naruto, It took most of Minato's lifetime to make the Hiraishin. Why do you even want one? She asked, and Naruto settled for smiling. I just want us to have one. A time-space ninjutsu all to ourselves. Kakashi-sensei has one, Tu-chan had one. I'm sure a few other people have some, so let's have our own, Naruto suggested, and he felt weird again. Like he could feel Kushina's interest and excitement in the subject rising. Well, what did you have in mind? She asked, and the blonde grinned with a nod as the blonde stood to his feet. I got the idea from Kakashi-sensei's jutsu. It was an amazing technique. Of course it will have some drawbacks, but nothing we can't handle, right? He asked, and Kushina raised an eyebrow. Alright, so what did you have in mind? She asked again, urging Naruto to get to the point. Well, you and Ero Sennin taught me more about shape manipulation, right? Naruto asked, and Kushina nodded. She was growing more and more excited while Naruto sighed. Alright, it will be called the Juahaden, Dark Wave Bullet. Despite its name, it's not a Suiten Jutsu Ka-chan. It will be our time-space ninjutsu, Naruto told her, and Kushina grabbed her son's collar. Point. Get to the point, Databane. She yelled, and Naruto nodded fast so that she would let him go. Alright, I'll explain it as best I can. It utilizes the shape manipulation into a perfect ball like the Rasengan. The main point is to focus chakra somewhere towards the lower parts of your body, like around your stomach, or maybe like the what is it? Naruto snapped his fingers while Kushina chuckled. Forget it, I understand. Basically a place where chakra is stored, she said, and Naruto quickly nodded with a smile. Right, see, the chakra takes on the waves of energy around us, and damn, this was so much better in my head, Naruto said while Kushina sighed with another small chuckle. Her son was so innocent at times that it could only make her laugh. Well, it's not like you'll get it anytime soon. So let's take it slow. We'll research it later, but for now I think it's time for us to explore this place a little more, Kushina said, hoping to her feet while Naruto did the same. I hope it doesn't take long, Naruto said as he was dragged out of the house by Kushina. Neither Uzumaki had any idea of what their fate still had in store for each of them. In Konoha, Kakashi sighed as he leaned against the wall while he was talking to Sakura. He could see that the news had completely devastated her while the pink kunoichi held her head to the ground. Team 7 might be disbanded. But why? She asked, and Kakashi rubbed the back of his head with a small sigh at her question. I know it's hard to digest, Sakura, but Tsunade-sama's forming a group, and me, Sasuke, and Naruto and another of our Anbu. I'm sorry, Sakura, but if Naruto, Kushina and Sasuke agree to it, then we're all officially a team, Kakashi explained, and Sakura balled her fists. What can you all do that I can't do? This isn't fair, she said, and Kakashi held up his hands in defense while he sweat dropped. Ma, Sakura, calm down now. It's not like we won't ever come back. We'll just be a lot more busy. Also, to tell you, we're all kenjutsu users. We are the most proficient in using swords. I was quite capable with swords back in the day. Kushina was a kenjutsu legend when she was an Anbu, and she passed those skills to Naruto. Sasuke, while it's weird to say this, was trained by Orochimaru. Well, I have to go, Sakura, back to a place I should have gone long ago, Kakashi said while he walked away with a waving hand, leaving Sakura alone in the fields to sulk. With Kakashi, the Jonin sighed as he wondered if he could have handled that better. He didn't know how Sakura would handle this new change, but orders were orders and she would just have to deal with it. Time to go. Back to that place, Kakashi thought as he entered into the streets of Konoha. He watched the people converse with each other and kept his impassive attitude. He could see a few Anbu hopping along the rooftops. He closed his visible eye as he walked away in silence. It didn't take long before Kakashi left the streets and came into a forested area. He moved through the trees before he came up to a small house. It was well hidden to match the environment. It's medium-sized wood, which was capable of housing about 5 to 6 people. The wood was somewhat deteriorated, but Kakashi didn't care about that at the moment. He quickly walked up to the house and touched the door. How long has it been since I've been here? Kakashi wondered as he opened the door. The wooden door creaked before opening and Kakashi stepped inside. He looked around the dark room before his fingers fumbled for the light switch. He flicked it on and all the lights came on, showing a quaint little space. He walked into the living room where a small couch table, couch and scrolls were. Connected to the living room was the kitchen, which hadn't been used in who knows how long. The amount of dust that had accumulated was staggering, which made Kakashi rub his head. I guess I'll have to clean this up one of these days, Kakashi said to himself before he left the kitchen and walked up the stairs. He looked to see two rooms, each right across from the other. On was his room and the other was his father's, Tsukumo Hatake, room. Kakashi looked down for a little while before he grabbed the door into his father's room. "2-san, I'm home. Sorry it took so long," Kakashi said as he opened the door. He flickered on the light and was graced with an empty room just like he had thought. It's not like he was expecting anything, it was just that he was feeling the loneliness settle in for a little while. Kakashi passed through the door and walked inside. His father's room wasn't anything impressive, just rather moderate. The Jonin looked up at his father's bed where the sheets laid in their perfect fashion just as the day he left. Right above the bed was a sword. It wasn't like the white light chakra saber that he used a Jonin during his youth. It was a lot longer and more of a full tang katana. It had a white handle over it and a small wolf-looking scarab. The sheath was made of pure white with two twin gray lines running through it. Kakashi hadn't been in his father's room at all since his death, so he might have missed this. The Jonin grabbed the handle and closed his eyes. "I probably can't wield this just yet, but I hope you can watch me too, San," Kakashi said to himself as he took the sword into his hands only for a small note to fall to the ground. Kakashi eyed it for a few minutes before he picked it up. He rested the sword on the bed as he read over the note. "To my son. Hey Kakashi, I don't really know why I'm writing this since you're sleeping just across the hall from me, but things work out like that. I suppose you hate me, don't you? My being ridiculed by the village for my mission must be Ember. Thanks for listening. In the next part. In the meantime, please leave a review, I would love to hear your feedback. Especially if it helps me improve the overall story.